Hello and welcome to Podcasting 101. You may be brand new to podcasting, or you may be someone who actually has a podcast yourself. If so, you can skip this lecture because you know what you're doing already. But for those of you that are relatively new to podcasting, we're going to talk a little bit about the best practices that go into recording the best podcast you possibly can, and I'll talk a little bit about Audacity, which is the program that I'm recommending that you use if you don't already have a program that you like for recording audios like GarageBand. So why on earth am I asking you to do a podcast assignment? Several reasons. First and foremost, podcasting is huge. It's grown more than 120% over the past 4 years. 90 million Americans listen to a podcast every single month, because podcasting, as it turns out, is a great way to build a genuine connection with your audience. It tends to be a lot more engaging than blog post. It's a lot easier and convenient for people to listen to in the car, at the gym. You don't have to stop to read post. So many companies are now starting to use podcasting as one of their branding and marketing strategies. Why is it helpful for you? Why are we doing the PSA assignment? First and foremost, it's a great way to practice oral communication. It's one of the number one ways that companies are asking of incoming employees. They want to make sure that you can communicate your ideas clearly and concisely in an oral format, in a written format, and then also that you have some basic technical skills. So this assignment helps us check all of those boxes. You're also going to be able to learn a little bit more about an area of interest in psychology through your own podcast, as well as listening to those of your classmates, as the second part of this assignment is to actually listen to 5 other classmates' podcasts and fill out a Google form about them. And then, for the reasons that we just talked about, depending on your future career, podcasting may actually be a skill that you need to know or be able to develop further. So, steps to recording the perfect podcast. It all starts with you figuring out what it is that you want to research. So this is your opportunity to take the time to explore anything in the field of psychology that interests you. Maybe you touched on it in a psych class earlier in your career, but really didn't get to dive in. Maybe it's something that you've heard about but don't know a lot about, and this is your opportunity to take time to really explore that. So your assignment is to pick a theory, a disorder, a person, or any idea within the history of psychology. You can do a true historical timeline if you want and talk about the history of sports psychology, for example, or you can pick any single newer concept and talk about things like best practicing in parenting or what's anorexia nervosa. So I leave it up to you. When I say history of psychology, that's very broadly defined. Second, you're going to do your research, and then you're going to use that research to write a script. I'm not asking you to turn in your script, but I do strongly recommend that you write a script before beginning to record your podcast. It's a really good way to A, practice that written communication and get your ideas down in a clear and concise way. And it's a really good way for you to not fumble when you are recording your podcast. Having those notes, that cheat sheet in front of you is a really good way to pull off a perfect, polished podcast. Maybe not on the first try, but definitely fewer than if you were just winging it. After you have your script written, you're going to want to make sure you have the right environment and equipment. This should not require you to purchase anything. I'm not asking you to buy a microphone or any fancy software. I'm recommending Audacity because it's free and it's relatively easy to use. As I said, though, if you have another MP3 recording software that you like and are familiar with, please go ahead and use that. I honestly don't care what you use as long as you have the ability to save your file as an MP3. You want to make sure that you have a quiet, and I call it recording studio. No, I don't expect that you have access to a recording studio. I'm recording this in my home office. So make sure that you have a place where you can put a do not disturb sign on. Maybe your roommates or housemates are gone. Let them know if they're around that you are recording and to please not make a ton of noise in the background. We don't want to listen to your roommate playing drums while you're trying to record your podcast. It's happened before, trust me. You want to make sure that you play with your equipment options. If you're new to podcasting, you might try using your phone versus using your laptop. If you have access to headphones or a mic, you might try using that versus not, and just kind of play with it and see what you like, what feels comfortable to you. Make sure that you get familiar with all of that before you hit the record button for real when doing your assignment. And you also want to play with your podcasting software. So again, as I said, if you have something you like GarageBand, that you're very familiar with, go ahead and use it. I recommend that whatever software you use have editing capacity. Audacity does. As I say, I recommend that because it's free. Free is always good. And it is relatively easy to use. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but in a few minutes you should be well on your way to figuring out how to record and then also edit. So you want to make sure that you do several trial runs before you actually hit record. Number one, you want to check for time. You only have 2 to 3 minutes to record your podcast. You want to make sure that you're not under or over that. And you might want to revise your script if needed. So if you're going through and doing your trial run and reading that you forgot to talk about the diagnostic criteria of anorexia nervosa and want to go back and do that, that's your chance before you hit record. Make sure again that you have your equipment set up appropriately before you hit record in whatever your quote-unquote studio is, whether that's a room in the ILC or the library or your bedroom, wherever that may be for you. Get some water, trust me on this one. You're going to need it if you have to record multiple times. And it's always amazing to me how when I have to do a recording, suddenly my throat is dry. Whereas if I'm talking in normal conversation, I don't have that problem. So just get some water, have it handy. Record as many times as you need to. The beauty of podcast editing softwares like Audacity or GarageBand is you can delete and start over. You can redo a portion. You can record 1 minute at a time and then merge it all together. Do whatever works for you. Just make sure that you're comfortable with that final recording. Then edit as necessary. I've got a video for you on Audacity on how to do that. If you have, again, another software program you like to use, you probably already know how to edit. You want to save your final version as an MP3. And then this assignment actually has 2 submissions. So you're going to submit the exact same podcast twice, once on the Canvas submission portal on the assignment itself, and then the second is going to be on our shared Google Drive. And so you'll find that link in the assignment on Canvas. We're going to put them on that shared Google Drive because that's the way that your classmates are going to be able to find and listen to your podcast. Canvas does not enable us to have assignment sharing in a way that is easy. And so I'm having you upload it twice, once for grading purposes to Canvas and once to our shared Google Drive so that your classmates can listen to your podcast. Okay, so Audacity. If you are new to podcasting and you're new to podcast software, I recommend that you download Audacity. It's available via link in our Make Sure That You Have the Required Software page of the Welcome module. I also will put my slides for this recording up, and so the link will be there as well. And also bookmarks our troubleshooting guide. The videos that I provide you in the classroom portal itself on Canvas are also really good, but if you have a unique issue that's not covered in one of those 2 videos, then make sure that you have that troubleshooting guide bookmarked, and so it's easy for you to find. When you first open Audacity, it actually has a link to one of those videos. It's kind of a troubleshooting. It also has other links to troubleshooting guides, so they are definitely there for you. Every time you open it, it will, unless you tell it not to, it will have those troubleshooting guides available for you. Okay, so then when you're ready, you want to first take a look at the rubric on Canvas. Make sure that you've got everything covered in your script that I ask for. Make sure that you've timed yourself and your podcast is going to be between 2 and 3 minutes. Take a look at all the other things that are on that assignment detail. If you haven't already, watch those videos that I post for those how-to guides on how to use Audacity. There's about a 30-minute video that really details everything you need to know about Audacity if you want to get into all of the nitty-gritty. Then hit record and then edit as needed. And then there is an option in Audacity to export a file. So you're just going to export that as an MP3 and make sure when you title it that you include both your name and your topic so that it's easy for your classmates to identify you and or your topic when they are trying to listen to your podcast on our shared Google Drive. And then final step is you're going to upload to that shared Google Drive, as well as the Canvas assignment submission portal as well, so we can get you graded and get your podcast up and ready for your classmates to listen to. Please let me know if you have any questions or technical issues with Audacity. Also, I do recommend that you play with this well before the assignment is due, especially if you're new to this software, because you just never know when you're going to have tech issues.